Round 2 is about to begin, or perhaps more accurately, it never really ended. And as we discussed in the previous video, one particularly interesting conclusion is the fate of Mamushi. And regardless of what actually happens in the future, whether Mamushi returns or not, one thing that makes this assumption or analysis quite intriguing is the point regarding the future timeline that Koji saw during Boruto's battle against Jura in the Land of Wind. And as I've said before, whether it turns out to be true or not, I'm still pretty suspicious about whether we've already passed this timeline or not. I mean, if Mamushi does eventually return, could the Mamushi invasion be starting its second phase? Yeah, you know what I mean, right? I'm not sure if I'm missing a similarity between this panel and some panels that have already happened, but at least there isn't a single panel showing any resemblance to the timeline Koji saw. And once again, maybe I'm not paying close enough attention or something, but for some reason, I don't see any similarities after this panel was revealed. But if you find any similarities between the panels Koji saw and events that have already happened, please let me know. But at least in the next few minutes, there's a part that's much more interesting. I'm Nim without the E. At least help me push this video to 100 likes or 1K hype points. And once again, thank you so much, guys. So, still on the topic of the Divine Tree people, so far, it's still pretty interesting. Whether it's how the author writes the Shinju story, like its origins, or even Jura as the incarnation of the ten-tailed beast, which we previously thought was just one, turns out there are actually two. And just a quick recap. Regarding why I said there are two ten-tails, or jubi, I've already explained it in this video, but if you don't want to watch it, the short version and conclusion is that jubi wasn't created simply by the fusion of Kaguya and the Shinju tree. Rather, in the Boruto universe, jubi was created because they are seed entities that will grow into the Shinju tree once a certain condition is met. And one of those conditions is to use an otsutsuki as food for the ten tails itself. Because, as confirmed by Jura or the code itself, consuming an otsutsuki like kawaki or Boruto will cause the Shinju tree to grow and produce chakra fruit. Yeah, that's at least the brief explanation or analysis. But aside from that, there's one more thing I want to mention and discuss. After the defeat of several Divine Tree humans like Ryu, Matsuri, and even Mamushi, we've seen how Jura reacted. Oh yeah, I won't be discussing Jura's priorities, but I'm more curious about Jura's eyes themselves. If we look at the Konohamaru versus Matsuri arc, there's one moment where, for some reason, Jura's eyes seem to connect with Matsuri's. By the way, if I'm using the wrong words to describe this, feel free to correct me. In short, after Konohamaru betrayed Matsuri and killed her, there was a moment when Matsuri was crying, and at the exact same time, Jura was seen shedding tears. Now, if we think about it more deeply, this naturally leads to two assumptions. First, seeing how Jura cried for the first time when Matsuri was crying, many fans suspect that Jura is connected to the other Shinju, or perhaps more accurately, Matsuri's eyes seem to be connected to Jura's. And whether this is relevant or not, I've also discussed the possibility that their Rinnegan eyes share the same ability as Pain's members. I mean, we know that every member of Pain has their Rinnegan eyes connected to one another, allowing them to share vision. Yeah, I'm sure you all still remember this. No matter where the enemy attacks from, even from a blind spot, it's all in vain. Because with those interconnected Rinnegan eyes, there's absolutely no gap whatsoever. Well, in this case, I've suspected the same thing. Jura and some of the other Shinju literally originate from the same chakra. All of them come from the Ten Tails chakra, right? It's just that some of the other Shinju are manifestations of a shinobi. But again, we can't ignore the fact that the Ten Tails chakra and the code play the biggest role, right? And regarding their Rinnegan, there's another pretty interesting theory. More or less, it's also about Sasuke. I mean, the reason why the Claw Grimes and the Divine Tree humans have the Rinnegan is all thanks to Sasuke's chakra. And honestly, I'm not underestimating this theory, but personally, if the reason Claw Grimes or even Shinju have the Rinnegan is because of Sasuke's chakra, it feels impossible to me, especially since from the moment Jura was born as the incarnation of the Ten Tails, he already had the Rinnegan. And the same goes for the Claw Grimes. Even before the time skip, Code had already created the Tsumaka army, and some of them already had the Rinnegan. But after all this, do you still think that even though Sasuke has lost his Rinnegan eye, the chakra from that Rinnegan still plays an important role in the Divine Tree humans themselves? Yeah, whatever your opinion is, that's totally fine. So, for the second point, continuing on why Jura's eyes cried along with Matsuri's, if in the first point we assumed it was because their eyes were connected, this second reason is because of Jura's heart. I mean, knowing how Matsuri was betrayed and how her love for Konohamaru led to her death and weakness, those feelings made Jura empathize. So Jura felt Matsuri's sadness too. But again, based on points 1 and 2, which one makes more sense to you? And let's get to the important part. Let's say, based on points 1 and 2, the actual fact is that Jura's eyes are connected to some shinju, or in Matsuri's case when she cries, Jura cries too, because his eyes are connected to hers. Now, by analogy, what about Mamushi? I know about Mamushi. If both his eyes are destroyed, that means he'll be completely unable to split himself and will perish. Is that right? But the question is, what if Hidari's or Jura's eyes are also damaged? Aren't all Rinnegan eyes interconnected? And on the other hand, if Jura can see through Matsuri's connected eyes, what about Mamushi? When both of Mamushi's eyes are destroyed, does Jura know that through his own eyes? Or does Jura not actually see through Mamushi's eyes at all? And this might sound silly, but if both of Mamushi's eyes are destroyed, does that mean the same thing applies to Jura himself? Well, in this case too, I have two interesting points. First, it's possible that the Rinnegan eye connection between the shinju does exist, but it isn't absolute or always active. That means Jura could be connected to Matsuri under certain conditions, whether due to relevance, distance, or even an emotional moment, but not to Mamushi. So when Mamushi's eye is destroyed, Jura might not necessarily feel the impact because the connection itself might be selective, not a full shared vision system like we've seen in other concepts before. And the second point is actually more interesting. What if Jura does see everything, including Mamushi's destruction, but chooses not to react? This would lead to the conclusion that Jura isn't merely connected, but is also learning and observing. He sees how other shinju lose, understands their weaknesses, and doesn't immediately intervene. And if this is true, then it brings us back to what we've been discussing. It's highly likely he's actually waiting for a bigger moment, especially if code enters the fray later. Because if that happens, then everything that seems settled right now could instantly turn into the start of the real round 2. And as a final conclusion, the Rinnegan eye connection between shinju likely does exist, but it's not something absolute or always active. And more importantly than that, Jura isn't the type to react impulsively. He observes, he understands, and he learns from every defeat of other shinju like Matsuri or Mamushi. And that brings us to the most likely possibility that everything happening right now isn't the end, but just part of the process. And that is indeed the fact. Because if Jura is truly observing and waiting, then the emergence of code could very well be the main trigger for the next phase. So in the end, the round 2 theory isn't just speculation, but something that was actually planned from the start. And that means sooner or later, this battle will start again on a much larger, more exciting, and truly epic scale. Oh yeah, shout out to Taigo. If you have any questions or anything like that, let me know in the comments. And of course, if there are some points where you think I'm wrong or off the mark and you feel there's something that makes much more sense, let me know in the comments. And of course, if you enjoyed this video, help me hit 100 likes or 1K hype points. That would really help me out. I'm Nim without the E. See you in the next video. Bye-bye, Data Bio.